Hello there, this is Dana Arcuri, author, speaker, survivor, and certified trauma recovery coach from danaarcuri.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. We are going to discuss the 6 toxic roles of the dysfunctional family. Now, oftentimes, when this is happening at the very, very beginning of our young childhood throughout our grown adult years, we may not even be aware of it. So for me, I did not understand the roles that each family member of mine played. I didn't quite understand how I fit into this role, but I then in 2018 really had this enlightening experience where I woke up to narcissistic abuse and I gained more insight and wisdom. I educated myself and I really have been on such an amazing healing journey over the past 3.5 years. And that's why I'm sharing these videos to help you, especially if you are the black sheep of the family or the family scapegoat. This is to give you emotional support, to educate, to advocate, and to continue to support trauma survivors. So thank you so much for being here today. Let's first cover a very intriguing quote, and it is by a woman named Rebecca Manville. And she says, "Children who are scapegoated in families are in reality victims of abuse and neglect. Yet this is rarely recognized by those working in our mental health systems, family courts, or educational systems. Because scapegoating processes can be subtle, many scapegoated adult survivors fail to realize that they have suffered from psycho-emotional abuse growing up. And even their therapist or counselor might miss the signs and symptoms associated with being in the most devastating dysfunctional family role." Whoa. So that's a mouthful, but boy, oh boy, is that so spot on. Oftentimes when we are growing up, especially in our childhood, we do not understand narcissistic abuse, triangulation of relationships, retaliation, smear campaigns, gaslighting and manipulation, and that we're being silenced and censored and told, shh, keep the family secrets, keep the family secrets, stay loyal to your family. What else do they say? Oh my goodness, there's so much that they say. They tell us, but it's your mother, but it's your mother. Just because someone's your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, a relative, etc., does not give them a free ticket to psychologically, physically, emotionally, sexually, and or spiritually abuse you. So we must really clearly understand that. So let's talk about this. When I was growing up in a dysfunctional family, I was not aware of narcissistic personality disorder. In my young years, I never understood what a narcissist is, what their traits are, what this looks like. I didn't even realize my own mother was a narcissist. So it wasn't until 2018 when I had a real enlightening experience. I woke up to the abuse. I could clearly see the very malicious dynamics, very unhealthy psychological abuse going on, not only within my birth family, but when I did this big genealogy search and I was looking into my relatives on both sides of the family. So it would be on my mother's side of the family, my father's side of the family. I started seeing that there was a lot of similarities. There was at least one person who was the family scapegoat. There was at least one person who was the big bully of the family. And there was definitely at least one narcissist per every single generation. And so there is intergenerational trauma, and it goes from generation to generation until you, my friend, say, I am done. I've had enough, and I'm going to end the cycle of abuse, because we don't want this bleeding all over the next generation, who happens to be our children, our grandchildren, and our future generations. So if we really start looking at all the different dynamics that have occurred through the years, from our childbirth through our adulthood, we can clearly understand, yes, we were traumatized. Yes, it was manipulative tactics that had taken place, especially in our home behind closed doors. And we can understand that it is not our fault. Next is that our self-identity becomes enmeshed into decades and decades of lies that we were told. So oftentimes, we were brainwashed. We were told, you're not good enough. You're a bad person. It's all your fault. You're to blame. You should be ashamed of yourself. And they say so many things to us, you're the crazy one. How many times have we heard either the narcissist and or the flying monkeys, which is obviously the abusive siblings, who say, it's us against you, so the problem must be you. And we can understand that that is inaccurate. That is a false pretense. And today we are going to dismantle that lie. And so on the website, themadtherapy.com, they state, all families have roles in which each member acts in accordance. However, in narcissistic families, the roles are distinct and damaging to the members individually as well as the entire family unit. The roles continue the level of dysfunction within the family unit, with the purpose being to protect the narcissist from addressing their own unresolved issues with themselves or others. Thus, how family roles are assigned are intentional, discreetly assigned to each member, and can go unnoticed for years due to the dysfunctional dynamics and abusive tactics. And I wholeheartedly agree with that quote. So when we start to unravel the years and years and years of being bullied, manipulated, silenced, abused, and mistreated and betrayed, we can understand that there are specific roles with each person in our family. Now, the one thing I do need to say, because I really started thinking about this, if you're in a larger family, there's a good chance you can easily relate to these 6 roles of the toxic dysfunctional family unit. However, I started thinking about the small family, and we're just gonna put it out there like an idea. What if someone's the only child? What if there is only a mother, father, and 1 child? That means there's only 3 of them. While that family unit can be very small, there could still be toxic roles within the entire relative, the relatives, the family members. So it might not just be you, your mother, and your father. It might actually be something that more so involves the aunts, the uncles, the cousins, the grandparents, etc., etc. So understand that some of you may notice these 6 roles and relate and say, oh yes, that's definitely my family. And some of you might actually take a good glimpse at these 6 roles and say some do pertain to your own personal situation and others may not. So take it with a grain of salt and do what you can to break free of this toxic role that was somehow designated to you. So we're going to start with the narcissist, because if we're going to start speaking about the different family roles, it will always start with the top. So we kind of work our way from top to bottom. And so at the top is the head master. They are a master of manipulation. It is a narcissist. Again, it could be your mother, your father, your grandparents, some other relative. So oftentimes, whether it is your mother, your father, your sibling, or even a step parent or another caregiver, depending on your family. It can also be another relative, someone who I didn't even mention. So we have to keep an open mind. Who is the narcissist? I mean, it could vary from one home to another. A narcissistic father emotionally damages their children. They disregard their boundaries. The narcissistic father is very manipulative. He withholds affection from his children, and he expects them to perform and perform perfection. Like, he expects his kids to be totally perfect. He has very unrealistic expectations of his kids. And the narcissistic father neglects the emotional needs of his children because he is most interested in having his own needs met. So a narcissist focuses on themselves. Everything is always center stage, meaning they are the star of the show. They want all eyes on them. So there is a profound tension among the family members who are ruled by the tyrannical narcissistic father. It is very, very unpleasant. You may feel very unsafe in that home. Next is the woman who happens to either be A, married to the narcissistic father, B, divorced to the narcissistic father, and oftentimes she becomes the enabler. And we have to ask, why is this woman the enabler of the narcissistic father? Typically, the mother simply echoes the father as she feels uncertain of herself due to her own abuse that she has suffered from the narcissistic spouse or ex-spouse. And she's afraid to confront him. The destructive pattern is the result of the mother's own traumatic childhood. And then if we start looking at, okay, let's talk about the narcissistic mother. A narcissistic mother thinks she's queen of the household. Oh, she's the queen, and everybody must bow down to her wishes. You follow her absurd demands, or else you are doomed to punishment. The narcissistic mother is domineering, emotionally immature, and vindictive. She's also very competitive. She will compete with her children. There's a saying that when mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. And boy, oh boy, is that true when it comes to a narcissistic mother. Next is that in this toxic family unit, everyone is miserable. When the narc mom doesn't get her own way, she will have a hissy fit, scream obscenities, and throw objects across the room like a toddler having a little temper tantrum. A narcissistic mom can act like two entirely different people, so she has a Jekyll and Hyde persona. And to the public, oh, she's so sweet, she's so kind, she's so loving. Ooh, but behind closed doors, beware, beware, she can't be trusted, and she is going to blow her fuse and lash out at you. Next is that when nobody is looking, the narcissistic mother is cruel, dismissive, and emotionally detached. They are not empathetic, they are not loving, and they are not caring, especially to their own children. When the narc mom is out in public, she can brag about her kids and talk about their accomplishments. My mom used to brag about me to her friends. Oh, my daughter Dana is an author and a speaker. And she tried to promote my book. And I used to get a kick out of this. Like, what are you doing, woman? Because out in public, she praised me. Oh, she talked so highly of me. But behind my back, she continued to say horrible things to me, including, why can't you get a real job? Interesting, because I do have a real job. Being an author is a real, legitimate job. Being a speaker, being a certified trauma recovery coach, these are legitimate, real jobs. Actually, I love working for myself, and that probably drove her nuts too. Next is that behind the false mask that both the narcissistic father and narcissistic mother wear, this is just false pretense. And it is their egotistical dictatorship that oppresses each family member, including you. The next person in the dysfunctional, toxic role of the family unit is the enabling parent. So we talked a little bit about him or her. We're going to keep talking about this person. It could be your mother, your father, your step-parent, or another caregiver. They may be married or divorced to the narcissistic spouse. The enabling parent is overpowered by the narcissistic parent, who happens to be, it could be, the husband, the wife, the ex-spouse, etc., etc. The world revolves around keeping peace with the narcissist. Okay, so the enabling parent will always keep the peace. They will always defend and protect the narcissist. Next, they fall for every single lie, manipulation, and covert scheme that the narcissist tricks them with, and it is absolutely pathetic. Next is that it really looks oftentimes like this person who is the enabling parent is under the spell of a narcissist. The enabling mother or father of a narcissistic parent is a secondary abuser. So the truth is this: oftentimes the enabler parent is also abusing you. It may be something very subtle. It may be something you never really totally understood. But you have to understand, if your parent is an enabler and they are defending and they are protecting the narcissistic parent, and they are pushing you under the bus, and they don't defend you, and they don't speak up for you, and they don't advocate for you, they are equally as malicious and psychologically abusive. Next, they don't rescue their child or children or grown adult children from the non-stop mental and physical torture by the narcissist. The lack of parental support to the child can suggest the enabling parent's needs are more important to the parent than the child's basic needs. Is it any wonder why the family crumbles and falls apart? Next is the golden child. Oh my goodness, let's talk about the golden child because they do play a role in the dysfunctional toxic family unit. The golden child is usually one of your siblings, or it could even be a stepchild in your family. It could be your brother, your sister, or stepbrother or sister, etc., etc. The golden child becomes designated for all the family's successes. Oh, how lucky of them. This child tends to be exceptional in one way or more. So they might be physically beautiful, charming by nature, intelligent, athletic, very, very smart in school, get really awesome grades. Maybe they're a cheerleader, they're a football player, they play musical instruments, and they're really good at it. So the family uses this as leverage for appearing superior to our society. And the golden child is the embodiment of perfection. The golden child is the special child who's a projection of all the impeccable traits of the narcissist. The golden child is an extension of the parent who happens to be the narcissistic parent. Even when the golden child sees the negative flaws of their narc parent, they stay loyal and devoted. At all costs, they will protect and defend the narcissist. Oh, yes, they will. Everything they touch turns to gold. He or she becomes the star of their class or family, and they're adored by everyone, and they're considered a brilliant person. Does anyone relate to anyone in their family who is the golden child? Does this sound familiar? Let's move on to number 4. Another role that someone plays in your family is the forgotten child. And this could be one or more of your siblings or step-siblings. The forgotten child is meek, shy, and passive. Normally, they have a very introvert personality. They might be more of a quiet person. In their submissive nature, they're willingly giving away their power. They bow down to the narcissistic parent, the golden child, and the bully of the family. The forgotten child is actually the lost child, who the toxic family doesn't notice. They kind of fall under the radar. They just kind of fall through the cracks. The lost child will fall through the cracks within their own fractured family system. And these forgotten children grow up to become traumatized adults. As teens and adults, they may seek out ways to numb their pain by addictive behaviors and also other forms of addiction, including food, alcohol, drugs, sex, shopping, gambling, and or people pleasing. Typically they live in denial about their own trauma, their own dysfunctional family, and the various insecurities they have within their own family unit. So because they are forgotten, because they kind of fall through the cracks, they're not really noticed. They're not really a top priority in the family either. That's how they became the forgotten child. So this deeply, deeply hurts them. And yet it's very interesting because this leads them to stay loyal to the narcissist, to the golden child, and to the bully of the family. And it's really interesting because due to their pain and insecurities and their weaknesses, they betray the family scapegoat in order to remain intact with the dysfunctional family unit. And for the forgotten child, it's all about saving face to avoid family disgrace, humiliation, and ostracization. Next is the family bully. Oh my goodness, every family has the family bully, a very rebellious, spiteful, hateful, aggressive person in the family. So let's talk about the family bully. This person is usually one of your very aggressive siblings or relatives. They are a hostile bully and a control freak. The family bully takes sibling rivalry to a whole new level, sibling abuse. Well, it's common for families to have sibling rivalry. What stands out the most with the bully is their intent to hurt others badly, especially the family scapegoat. They can physically harm you. They will mentally torture you and annihilate you. In some cases, they will sexually violate you, and it's very, very sad. Many, many people have shared with me how they have been sexually assaulted, molested, tortured, bullied, and abused by their toxic sibling. And so if that happened to you, I am so, so very sorry for what you have suffered, and it is extremely traumatic. Next. The bully of the family has evil motives to control their family members, manipulate them, and gaslight them. The family bully tries to influence each family member. They'll do it covertly, not directly, because they don't want to get caught. So they're very sly. They're very slick in how they do this. The family bully will provoke conflicts within the family unit. They will cause division, animosity. They will triangulate relationships in the family. And then they slyly step back and they watch their entire family explode. And they play innocent. They just let on with their little selective amnesia. Geez, I don't know what's going on. Next. The family bully tries to influence each family member, and they're the first one to blame shift the family scapegoat. As an adult, the bully creatively manipulates both parents to include them in the family will, the family trust fund, and inheritance, and they play favorites to the enabling parent. They want to get on good sides with both parents. The family bully will butt heads with the narcissistic parent, okay? Because the family bully is so domineering, such a control freak, and they have a lot of similarities to a narcissist, they will butt heads with the narcissistic parent. These two will have heated disputes constantly. I saw this in my own family dynamic. So I had one sister who constantly bumped heads with my narcissistic mother. These two had, oh my goodness, the heated disputes, the arguments, the fights, and constantly they'd be on the phone calling me. So my mom would be on the phone calling me and saying, she did da-da-da-da-da. And then no sooner I'd hang up the phone and that very sister would call me saying, and mom did da-da-da-da-da, fill in the blank. And they both were trying to get me to take their side. It was absolutely crazy making. Next is that the bully will not blink an eye when they ruthlessly steal the trust fund or the family inheritance right out of the hands of the family scapegoat. The bully is heartless, mentally unstable, psychologically abusive, and quite lethal. Sometimes they could be a sociopath, Next is sometimes they also masquerade as the sheep of the family. They pretend they're good Christians. Oh, goodness. Don't be fooled. They're actually a wolf who is predatory, menacing, and they are looking to prey on you and chew you up and spit you out. Next, they prey on the family scapegoat, and they do try to overpower the scapegoat or the black sheep of the family. And when you least expect it, they will not only betray you, the family scapegoat, they'll betray you, they'll betray your trust, they'll trample all over your boundaries, but they will have a grin upon their face when they kick you under the bus. Next, let's talk about the family scapegoat. Oh boy. So, the family scapegoat comes from an ancient Jewish tradition. Now, we talked about this in my previous video on the family scapegoat and different signs of it. And so we're not going to get into the Old Testament and Leviticus 16, but we can definitely say, yes, there is a story in the Bible about how the community of people designated who was the scapegoat and who took on the sins of the entire community and family unit. And so basically that's what it comes down to. So it comes down to that all family members are getting dumped on by this person. They're getting dumped on by the narcissist, by the golden child, by the bully of the family. And so they suppress the scapegoat because they understand and they clearly see the scapegoat is actually a very good person. They're empathic, they are compassionate, they are truth seekers. Typically they are peacemakers until maybe at one point in their life they might just grow up and realize they're keeping the peace for everyone and it's basically stealing their own peace. And so they decide, I'm going to make some amazing changes in my life. I'm not going to be a people pleaser anymore. We can understand that the black sheep of the family and the family scapegoat is usually the kindest, smartest, most caring, loving person within that whole family. Again, they're not the toxic person. They just were designated this role as the scapegoat. And so the scapegoat is the family punching bag. On a daily basis, they are singled out collectively. They are ridiculed. They are criticized. People make jokes about them. People exclude them in family functions and important legal matters within the family, within communicating important facts that are going on in the family, such as your parent is on their deathbed. Well, it just so happens that oftentimes the bully of the family, the narcissist, and the golden child do not disclose to the family scapegoat that their own parent is on their deathbed. Oftentimes the scapegoat doesn't even know when their own parent passed away. It's extremely devastating and sad, and yet this goes on and on and on. We end up seeing so much unhealthy battling and bickering going on amongst the abusive siblings who viciously and intentionally hurt the family scapegoat. And so what you may notice is that you are belittled, you are humiliated, you are bruised, battered, betrayed, rejected, and treated poorly. And it's not just like it only happened once, but there is this circle and cycle of abuse. And from generation to generation, it just keeps going on and on and on and on. And complex PTSD from surviving to thriving, Pete Walker says, narcissistic and borderline parents typically choose at least one child to be the designated family scapegoat. Scapegoating is the process by which a bully offloads and externalizes his pain, stress, and frustration by attacking a less powerful person. Scapegoating brings the bully some momentary relief. It does not, however, effectively metabolize or release his pain, and scapegoating soon resumes as the bully's internal discomfort resurfaces. And, what happens? I'll tell you what happens. The bully of the family, who may be a child in the early years who is abusing their siblings, they grow up. the bully grows up to be a big adult bully. They continually still bully the black sheep of the family and or the family scapegoat. And so that is oftentimes why we end up going no contact, because we have already tried and exhausted every other possibility, and our last resort was to cut the ties for once and for all. The one thing I have to say is there are a lot of really positive traits of a scapegoat of the family. And so here we go. The top traits of a scapegoat: you are a truth seeker, you are empathic, you are compassionate, you are typically a free thinker, you are an old soul, you care about others and you fight for justice, you are a highly sensitive person, you are unique and you are nothing like your parents and siblings, you are very creative, you may look outside the box, you are a whistleblower and you are so courageous. You are authentic, you are transparent, you are empowered, you may have an intuitive nature, this inner knowing. It's a beautiful thing. You are fearless, you're fearless, I love you. You are unstoppable, woo, love that. You are a healer and you are a loving caretaker. And I just love scapegoats because I am a family scapegoat who is now on the other side of trauma, who gives healing and hope to those who have been traumatized and abused, especially in the family unit. Does any of this resonate with you? Do you relate to any of what I'm talking about? Do any of the people in your family, whether it's your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, etc., do they have these patterns? Do they play these roles that I talked about, such as the bully of the family, the narcissist, the enabler, and also the forgotten child? If so, share with me, who plays which role, what your experience is, how you're healing, what you are doing to mend yourself and to get in a better place where you can have peace of mind. If you need emotional support, now's the time, my friend. I have 50% off my 1-month coaching package. Think about that, 50% off. This is the biggest sale of the year, people. If you want emotional support and you want to have safe space to unpack your trauma with me, check out my blog post that gives all the details. Reach out to me on my website, danaarcuri.com, and let's get started in helping you to find hope and healing in your trauma journey. Thank you, God bless, and have a beautiful day.